everybody doing out there? Wow, put your hands together for Bear Market Riot, our local boys. Representing strong like they always do. Did you guys know that they got to go and they opened in Petaluma at Mystic Theater for them last night? How badass is that? So proud of them. I'm Corey from Good Medicine. Thank you so much for being here. The sense of community. Look around. Look who's here tonight. It's who's who, right, of our community. Because you guys know who they are, and so you're where you're supposed to be. Thank you, Siren, for letting us host another fun event here. We love being here. Without further ado, all the way from Portland, Oregon, welcome, properly, Central Coast, Fruition!
Till the dawn, and I dance to my favorite songs till I pass out in the lawn. And I won't wanna stop, even when I can't. Forever I belong to the bed.
You're listening to Rippin' Common Sense Radio.
That's right, where we take you well into the midnight hour with our special Art Bell Archives show happening tonight and every night this weekend, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Tune in as we open up the Art Bell Archives and dive into the lost classics of a vocal treasure. We take a look at those stories and we bring them up to date and we share them with you. We ask for your input and your shout outs, your call ins as we go through the most amazing stories ever told. Tune in tonight and every night as we reinvestigate the Art Bell Archives live.
The Art Bell Archive Show.
Rippin'
7 p.m.
Rabbit
Pacific,
Hole is a
10/9
community-driven
Central.
radio.
RippinCommonSense.com.
At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy. The captain has turned on the seatbelt sign.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Art Bell Archives live show. I'm your host, AJ the Rippin' Rabbit. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. Tonight we dive deep down into the Art Bell Archives to dust off a subject that is deserving of a discussion. Horned giants. Tonight we're talking about megalithic earthwork structures right here in North America, thousands of years old. It's a subject Art Bell would have embraced, and we're going to bring it up to date. We've got new information. We're going to share with you some firsts. So stick around. I'm glad you're here. Buckle up your seatbelts, folks, as we go into the world of horned giants and bring this story up to date. Today, Thursday, December 5th, 2019. Now, my guest coming up on the program tonight, author Alfredo Acosta Figueroa, is the author of a book, Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River. This book is a result of more than 53 years of his research. We are excited to have him here this evening, and we're going to connect with him in just a bit. But first, last week we had a fantastic week with a great lineup of subjects, and we started the week off with Thanksgiving. Although we didn't focus a lot about the things that we were thankful for on that night, as we discussed vanished towns, some events of this week that I'd like to share with you have caused me to reflect a little bit more sincerely on the things that I'm thankful for. This week I received a text from my youngest son's school. It was a text that any parent would dread. It alerted the parents to an active shooter on campus, and the school was on lockdown. I'm going to tell you, panic is an understatement. Now, it turns out the situation was very real, and an armed student showed up to the school intending to do harm. I was able to communicate with my son through the first few moments of this incident via text. He was indeed scared and barricaded in a classroom with his teacher and peers. Everyone was in fear, real fear. After the communication became unresponsive, the worry for me as a parent really began to grab hold. And I am pleased to report the incident became controlled rather quickly, with the proper procedures activated precisely. It was the better part of 5 hours before we were able to communicate with my son again and know that he and the others were safe and being released. And during that time, I fear what any parent would fear, and I don't wish that feeling on anyone. Afterward, although he was quite shaken, I realized what a hero my son was. He sent me the photo, attached to the link in the show notes, of the barricade that he built. He told me that he was the only one in the classroom, including the teacher, that wasn't in complete panic or sobbing on the floor. I'm proud of my son. He acted quickly and alone to secure his class, out of instinct. As you can see, if you click that show note link and look at the photo that he took, he did a remarkable job. Nevertheless, this photo captures that moment and the reality of this type of horrible reality for students today. I feel so blessed to share this story with you in this way, as opposed to the alternate ending. Unfortunately, a lot of parents in today's world are faced with. It's all too real. It can happen anytime, anywhere. And this is just a reminder to tell the ones you love and admire most how important they are in this world. Point out the little things every chance you get. That makes those you love heroes to you. Some parent somewhere today won't get that luxury. Now, tonight's topic, the Horned Giants, deals with a frequent topic of Art Bells. Art would often have particular native elders and guests on that would speak about their lore and their traditions. In July 30th of 1997, Art was joined by Native American elder expert Robert Ghostwolf, and they discussed how technology of the Aboriginal people could help the planet. Now, there is no question that the Aboriginal people that occupied this land long before this land was our land were sophisticated. They were a civilization of engineers, designers, and workers that built some fantastic earthwork structures long before the pyramids or ancient Greece or even Rome, for that matter. Now, the earthwork structures that you'll find remaining here in the North America can rival some of the most fantastic structures found all over the world. We're talking about a population and a civilization that took place before the Egyptian pyramids, before ancient Greece or Rome. This was a time when this land was occupied by sophisticated civilization with their own recorded legends and lore. And as we will see throughout the discussion tonight, one of those legends includes the Horned Giant. We take you to Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Just about 4 miles northeast of Baraboo is Man Mound Park, a place that pushed its way into history through the work of Native Americans who piled the earth into a shape only visible from above.
Didn't have any way of getting that view, so they had to use their mind's eye to create that shape.
Crafted about 1,000 years ago, the Man Mound stretches 214 feet tall by about 64 feet wide.
They're places that the native peoples created as a monument to their honored dead, to themselves.
And at its center is believed to be just one person of great importance who is buried here.
The assumption is that these were high-status individuals. So they would be leaders, they would be chiefs, clan leaders, tribal leaders. That's our best guess.
Effigy mounds, as they're known, are becoming less and less common to find. 80 to 90% of an estimated 5,000 that once existed are believed to have been destroyed.
The reality is humans use this land for roads, for buildings, for farming.
And merely because of its shape, the Man Mound is one of the most unique effigies that's still around.
One of the rarest styles of mounds are human-shaped mounds. And this is the only one that has survived.
And survival of these mounds was not easy, especially in the 1840s, as Wisconsin was developing and cultivating the prairie land. Most of these structures were obliterated. Our friend Todd Rongstead, who is a sacred site and native history researcher in the upper Midwest, He speaks with Robert Norrie, the Ho-Chunk Nation, and the Sauk County Historical Society about this remarkable effigy.
The site was recognized in 2016 as being a National Historic Landmark, the very first effigy mound to ever get that designation here in Wisconsin. And that's pretty important. That means that the National Park Service has said this place is an exemplar of a historic site. And as such, I think it raises our responsibility, and by our, I mean all of us, our responsibility for how to care for these sites. In many ways, and one of the best lines that came out of that process of becoming a National Historic Landmark was something that Amy Roseborough, the Assistant State Archaeologist, who did most of the work to get it to be a National Historic Landmark, she came up with a line which I just love, which is that the Man Mound serves as an ambassador for all of the effigy mounds. So we have perhaps 1,000 effigy mounds that still exist, roughly 1/3 of what was originally here in the southern part of Wisconsin and nearby portions of other states.
Now, if you're not aware of what an effigy mound is, the native Aboriginal population built earthworks and mounds. And there was a period of time where even a subculture would repurpose mounds that had been built thousands of years earlier. These can be found throughout North America in places like Ohio and Illinois, where Cahokia is an ancient city where there exists Monk's Mound, which is a fascinating 300-year constructed mound of earth. Now, Wisconsin is the largest concentration of remaining effigy mounds in North America.
Here in Wisconsin claims, and I suspect it's true, that they own more effigy mounds than any other entity. It's probably true.
And as you'll see, the importance of the horned figure, the Man Mound in Baraboo, Wisconsin, being the only remaining humanoid effigy figure in North America, is significant to a story that began thousands of years ago.
And what we have the potential of using the Man Mound as a place that sets an example for how we should care for these sites. Every effigy mound or mound group is in its own setting, and I am not about to say that everyone should be mowed like a park like this. Some of them are in much more natural settings, and we should encourage that. Every mound and mound group requires a thoughtful process to come up with a long-range sustainable plan for how to care for it.
Thankfully, that's exactly what happened to Man Mound before it was almost destroyed by road construction.
Man Mound was discovered in 1859, which means it was 4 years too late to be included in Increased Lapham's great reference work on the mounds, The Antiquities of Wisconsin. You will find no reference to the Man Mound in that work, but he did comment in an article after its discovery. Here is what Lapham had to say about the Man Mound. I wish to announce the discovery by Mr. William H. Canfield near Baraboo in Sauk County of an ancient artificial mound or earthwork of the most strange and extraordinary character of any yet brought to light. It represents very clearly and decidedly the human form in the act of walking, and with an expression of boldness and decision which cannot be mistaken. But this evidence for that bold walk was partially lost when a road was constructed across the shins of the Man Mound. It was no major freeway, just a regular county road that couldn't be budged for a Native American artifact.
Unfortunately, we have lost all too much iniquities in this nation to this type of activity. Now, to be fair, the only way that you can view the Man Mound in its entirety is from the air. Interesting to note that there are no surfaces that are above the Man Mound where it can be viewed. It can only be seen by the air. Now, keep in mind, this is an over 200-foot depiction of a humanoid figure that stretches over 200 feet in length, made over time entirely from Earth. So when you're on the Man Mound, it's a very shallow hill, and you can barely notice anything. It's very insignificant when you're next to it. So it's very easy to understand how road construction or development of land could simply plow right through the shins of this fantastic creature. But that's exactly what took place. Now, thanks to the state of Wisconsin and the people that care about this effigy, it has been restored, and they've been able to paint lines across the road where the shins were, and it connects to the Man Mound's feet. In our show notes in the link below, you'll be able to see photos of the Man Mound itself and the road that goes right through its shins.
Ironically, it is the destroyed legs and feet that were easiest to make out on this day, since they're outlined clearly with lime. For the first time in a long time, it's possible to see the walking posture of this figure. There was talk of rebuilding the feet on the other side of the mound. The white lines seemed to play easily upon the cement of the road. The design seemed to make a claim for this space, and the cracked road had no power of its own.
The Man Mound was originally commemorated with a plaque in 1908. Then it was rededicated in August of 2008.
One of the speakers on the program was Downeen Jelinek, who has lived much of her life in the vicinity of the mound.
Welcome to Man Mound Road, Man Mound Park, and the former Man Mound Schoolhouse. Over the years, Man Mound has brought many interested visitors. I have met many of the visitors because 40 years ago I bought Man Mound School and had it remodeled into a home. The one-room schoolhouse had been vacant for 6 years. Now, every morning I can look out at the mound as I eat my breakfast. During the summer, my family often would carry a lunch across the road to eat in the park. The pupils at the school carried lunches, and they enjoyed eating in the park, too. We also enjoyed playing games, such as pump, pull away on the mound, and we were instructed to stop playing softball on the mound because our bases caused noticeable wear and tear.
Dunning quoted a poem that day that was written by a local resident.
Man of earth, what secrets do you hold? What were they like, those builders of old? Did you share their dreams, or were you a part of the fear that clutched at every heart? Were you a kind God? Did you have your children looking down from above? Or are you seen striding in striding pose as you struck terror with your blows? Man of earth, what secrets do you hold? What were they like, those builders old?
Man of earth, what secrets do you hold? Now, 1,000-year-old man humanoid figure that was built out of earth in the form of a mound must contain secrets.
And then we started actually burning the surface of the mound because one of the goals was to encourage the native vegetation to return to the mound. And it's just been fascinating. We burned it the first time in 2011, burned it again every year from 2014 to 2018 for 5 years. And what's been amazing is how many native plants have come back on their own. We've done very little seeding. All I've done is ever put in a little prairie grass seeds here and there. But we have maybe 20 or 30 species of native plants that have reappeared, either as seeds that have been brought in by birds or by the wind, or more likely, things that were in the soil bank and we're just waiting for the opportunity to come back. The point that I think I want to make as much as anything is this site transcends just being a county park. And I give county parks credits for having cared for it for a long time, but we need to go beyond just the basic mowing of the grass.
And as a visitor who has had the luxury of walking the sacred grounds of Man Mound, I can tell you that upkeep goes a long way. It's so intriguing, the fascinating tale of this particular mound, the only known remaining humanoid horned figure. And you can feel that sense when you stand there of how sacred that ground is. But what does it all really mean? Coming up in just a few moments when we connect to our guest this evening, we're going to try and uncover those secrets, if we can. But what does the significant meaning of the Man Mound have in store for our cultural impact today?
But it is definitely a human shape. It is, of all the human-shaped mounds that were ever recorded, it is the one that has the greatest detail. So we actually see feet and elbows and hands and knees. Other mounds that were thought to be human-shaped tended not to have as much detail. The thing that makes this one unique is it's got these two projections from the head. And what those are all about is the subject of lots of discussion. Some have suggested that these were horns, so it could be either a horned being, or it could be a shaman wearing a horned headdress. That's one possibility. Others have suggested that there are, in some native cultures, there are beings that are part human and part animal, or at least have traits of both. And one in particular is beings that are rabbit-human combinations. So I had a dear friend of mine who was a Menominee elder who was here, and he immediately said, this is clearly a rabbit-human interaction. I don't know for sure, and I doubt I ever will know, and I'm not sure it's important that I ever know. To me, the fact that native peoples who were on this land 1,000 years ago took the time to make this thing makes it important, whatever it is. But because it does have a human shape to it, I think that we as humans relate to this mound in a stronger way than we might to other mounds, and I think that's an important piece of it.
Again, if you click in the show notes and the link below where the show note link is, you'll be able to see the photos of the Man Mound, and you can see the horns and the figure for yourself. Now, in our research, we have found the Indian tribal accounts do indeed seem to echo some presence of a horned figure or a horned creature throughout their lore and throughout their stories. In fact, they even echo an Atlantean presence in America. Some have suggested the collapse of Atlantis and its people into the oceanic catastrophe were tribes that in the Great Lakes region recalled this hero, Nanabozeo, and he supervised the recreation of the world after the flood, which he survived by riding on a big wooden raft along with animals he took on board, just like Noah. Now, this particular bit of information, this tradition, predates the biblical version's introduction to this story by an unguessed amount of generations. In other versions, the original Wolf brothers appeared from the bottom of the ocean, where their ancestral island had been swallowed up by a terrible flood. As the disturbed sea began to calm down, the Waxahachie, a water spirit, arose from the waves, wearing a horned helmet, and led the survivors across the ocean on improvised rafts to the new land. Thereafter, all the wolf clans were known as water clans. It's a fascinating tale, folks. Our guest is here to talk about the secrets and how this connects to other parts of the world in just a moment. Stay with us.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Fascinating evening here as we look at horned giants, and we'll be back to that subject in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the rest of the weekend of programming. You can join us here every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening for a episode of the Art Bell Archive live show right here at Ripon Rabbit Hole every night starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Friday night, tomorrow night, we're going to discuss Planet 9, fascinating look into the outer reaches of our solar system in search of Planet 9. Then Saturday night, guest Moneybag 73 will be back with us again. We're going to get into the Mandela music effect. He's going to bring along a lot of samples and different pieces of the Mandela effect and the residue in that music industry. It's going to be a great show. Moneybag's always a fantastic guest, and we look forward to him and you that Saturday, December 7th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. That night will also be call-in studio night. Our open lines will be live, giving you a chance to call in and speak directly to Moneybags as we carry through the rabbit hole of Mandela music. That's coming up Saturday night, December 7th. Then join us Sunday night for Anti-Gravity, a look at technology and perhaps what's on the horizon, extraterrestrial technology even, in the discussion of anti-gravity. Sunday night, December 8th, starting again at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. You can check our schedule at riponrabbithole.com. Just click on Listen Live for any updates or changes to the schedule. We post the schedule Monday nights, and we will keep you up to date with exactly what we continue to bring your way. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our mailing list there at Ripon Rabbit Hole, or if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You'll get our notifications when we go live, and you can join us and be part of the fun. We're going to get back to our discussion of horned giants tonight, Thursday, December 5th. It's a fascinating tale of fantastic North American effigies. We're going to get back into it now with our special guest and take a look at the importance of Man Mound in Baraboo, Wisconsin, compared to other locations around the world. It's a fun night, folks. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. As we just heard in the opening first segment, the Man Mound, an effigy mound located just outside of Baraboo, Wisconsin, is the only known humanoid figure effigy mound in North America. He stretches more than 200 feet in length, can only be seen by the air, and he's adorned on the top of his head with a pair of horns. He's what we call the horned giant. And as you'll learn, he's not the only horned humanoid figure, just not in the shape of a mound. Our guest tonight will tell us about the Blythe Integlios. And of course, if you are aware of what a mound is, then we should tell you what an integlio is. In the case of the integlio, it's now been carved into the ground. It's the reverse of a mound. It's been carved. It's an integlio, hence its name, integlio. Now, we came across research where we discovered that, in fact, in the middle of the Arizona desert, along the Colorado River, exists a humanoid figure, a horned humanoid figure, walking across the desert of Arizona along the Colorado River. And we started to ask, what are the connections between the Man Mound in Wisconsin and the horned giant intaglio in Blythe Canyon? Is there a connection? And if so, what is it? My guest tonight is the man that can answer those questions. Alfredo Acosta Figueroa was born in Blythe, California in 1934. He is the author of the book Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River. You can find the book on Amazon. The book is the result of more than 53 years of research in the lower Colorado River Basin valleys and in Mexico. Most of the work is based on the sacred images that are surrounding in those surrounding mountains. Now, this movement has motivated the foundation of this book that he wrote, and this is in-depth research that brings forth the truth of the Aztec Mexica place of origin, what they call Aztlan. Please welcome to the program my guest, Alfredo Acosta Figueroa. Alfredo, hello.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. It's a pleasure and a tremendous honor to have you here. First, let me say top hats off to you on the research that you've done, and your book is truly fascinating, and you really reveal some very interesting information in the book.
Everything that we wrote, we can substantiate.
And you've done this research over how many years?
Since I was raised here, I was born here in Blythe. I'm going to be 86 years old. My mother were all born across the river there, and we're from the reservation here, from Parker. Well, a little bit up from Parker, we're right there at the Sandy River, the Sandy Big Maria River.
Okay. Now I've read
Parker Dam.
I've read a lot of information that you've put out, and then you've also encouraged me to get and read the Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River.
Oh, definitely. That's my first book.
Yes. Now,
so we can prove. If you read my biography, you will see where we have won our case in the Supreme Court of California. We won our case against the United States custom officers because they beat me and my brother up. So when you win cases, you don't win them because they like you. You win them because you have facts to substantiate that you are saying that they committed a crime. Right.
Now, in Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River,
mm-hmm.
you speak about the secrets that are held, but you don't go into elaborate detail.
No, we don't do elaborate detail because, see, the majority of people like you that have come, when you get into elaborate detail, that makes them more confused. It's too much for an Anglo-Saxon to understand how they were raised and how all this here is here and why this was not taught to you or to us, in the schools, public schools. Some of the top archaeologists over here in Los Angeles say, well, they didn't teach me that at UCLA. Well, definitely not. But the Mexicans, they teach it in schools, but they don't know where it's original at.
The origin.
Right.
Now, do I say it right when I say La Cuna de Aztlan?
Cuna means cradle, and I can show you on the codices where the cuna is, the cradle is. You have to read also, the codices.
One more time, I didn't hear that.
The codices.
The codices.
The codices are like they don't have writing, they just have images. You see, the Mexica, our ancestors, they didn't have writing. They just had images to substantiate what they were trying to relate.
And that those images are traditional in lots of cultures, but
Definitely, you betcha. But here's the but. But the codices that we have relate to the images that are in the mountains here, and are also included in the geoglyphs. So now you know what a geoglyph that it relates to, don't you?
well, it relates to a legacy or a origin or
No,
ethnology.
the geoglyph relates to the Creator's travel on the surface of Earth. You see, there's just geoglyphs along the Colorado River.
And that's the Blythe intaglios.
California and Arizona. And they start on the north from Needles and goes all the way to Rocky Point on the Gulf of California, on the Sonora side, Mexico. That's where they end up. This is all called La Cuna, the cradle.
What would you actually estimate the age of those intaglios to be?
I don't get involved in that, because then I'll be just assuming, and that's the word I never use. You will see that I don't use the word myths nor theories nor assuming. You got to talk to the people from the carbon dating, and they'll tell you it's over 10,000 years. That's why if you look up at the research that the group from Oregon University made, they will tell you that here is where the Gulf of California used to come all the way up. And that's why the pebbles, they're round pebbles here that you find in the ocean side, and they're over here here in Blythe. So how did they get here? Because the ocean used to be here. So I don't involve myself in that. You got to talk to a guy named Ron. Forget his name now. Ron, he's the guy from Tempe, carbon dating.
Absolutely. And also in Wisconsin, we've been able to carbon date the Hensler site, which is just outside of Aztalan, Wisconsin, 11,500 years ago.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And this is, of course, the Wisconsin Aztalan. But you suggest that Aztalan
I don't
is...
suggest. I make present facts.
You've documented the fact that the search for Aztalan and the destruction of the island of Aztalan is more than just story or lore.
Right here, right there in the book, I show you where the island was and why those sloughs. We have those sloughs here in the Colorado River. You know what a slough is?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The sloughs represent the dried lake of Mexica. See? And the island of Aztlan is surrounded by the sloughs. And those sloughs are right there in front of the Twin Peaks, the Moon Mountain Twin Peaks, where the equinox sunrise comes out during the equinox.
Yeah, now you documented this year, and you passed out the email with the fall equinox and the autumn equinox sunrise. And why is the equinox so important?
Because it makes the equal. That's what equinox means, equal. It's same hours of day, like daylight, and same hours of night. That's why the woman and the man are the same. Night represents woman, and day represents man.
And you talk about the sun shining in between the Moon Mountain Twin Peaks.
Right. Yes.
And that's east of the Blythe intaglios.
Right. Well, that's where the sun rises. The sun rises in the east.
And this would have been a symbolism during that time frame. And how does that relate to the direction of the island of Aztalan? Would that have been below those two peaks?
You have to understand that the images on top or the mountain ridges represent the cosmos down on Earth. You understand?
Yes.
That's why it's hard to, I don't like to discuss this on the phone. I like to just put, like if we were there right there at the Blasenteglis, I could show you the images on the ridge. And then, see, you have to have a little imagination. The shadow, when the sun rises, the shadow brings down what is the image of Tonatiuh Inchan, the first house of the sun. That's the image on top of the mountain ridge of the Big Maria Mountain Range. See, the Big Maria Mountain Range, where the geoglyphs are, they are the first mountain. It's called Cuautepec. Cuautepec means the mountain of snakes, because you'll see the images that have the images of the snakes on it. But
and those are the Vindo-Bonesis Codex?
Excuse me?
The Vindo-Bonesis Codex, which depicts the Moon Mountain Twin Peaks equinox?
I didn't understand you.
The Vindo-Bonesis Codex? It's the drawings that you included in that email.
It's but you see, because I've taken pictures of it, and then see the sun rises in the Moon Mountain Twin Peaks, and the moon rises right behind it, around 32 miles, where the Boss Fisherman rises in the afternoon. So that's why the moon rises and the sun rises in aligned with each other.
Fascinating stuff, Alfredo.
Oh, these are all facts. But you gotta be. So that's why it's hard for people to understand. Like I tell these people when I've given talks and to the archaeologists, but you have to be there so you can understand. Otherwise, you're not going to believe it because they don't teach this.
They won't teach this in school.
Continue with the same. Like I just gave a talk Tuesday. Right here, they're trying to put more solar panel projects on top of these sacred sites. And I tell them, what you're doing right now, you're just continuing with the same philosophy of the Europeans when they first came from Europe. Destroy, and we don't want no kind of existence, remnants. Destroy everything. So that's what you're trying to do.
And they need to be, because the stories are so important to the impact.
But you have to have some feeling, and the majority, these big companies, they don't have no feeling. They want to sell, get this free bucks, free money. We already stopped 3 of the power plants, solar power projects, and yet when they got that money, some of them just retired, went back to wherever country they were from. You see. So anyway, so that's it.
Well, you've done a tremendous job as fighting that.
I mean, that's why every day, I just gotta hurry up. I'm 86 years old, so I'm going to be 86. So, and like I tell my daughters and all that, my sons, you guys gonna have to continue in our group. We have people from the group, but they have to be here with us so we can take them and show them.
And I think that's important, and so is the work that you've left behind. I'm very impressed. The book, Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River, a fantastic read, full of documentation and information that you left us to discover.
Mm-hmm.
And to carry that on, as you say, is very important. Of course,
this is it. This is it, because that's what the majority of people all want to know. Where did we come from, and where are we going? And why are we here in this earth?
And what's the answer, Alfredo?
Our associates that are closest to us are the environmentalists. These are the ones that are closest to us. Otherwise, all these people, sometimes you just get in the White House. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or doesn't matter. you're still going to be a politician. Show me the money, honey, and I'll show you the time.
There you go. Well, one of the interesting things about the Blythe Integlios and their humanoid figure in relation to Baraboo, Wisconsin, with the Man Mound, that horned figure has some particular significance. Is the one that's down there in Blythe and the one that we found in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard any response back. I was curious, did you have any relation to the symbolism of what we find in Arizona and any connection to what we find in Wisconsin?
Everything is connected, but there's the center, and the center is here, but the whole world is connected. It's all connected. That's why you find, like I said, but you just find these geoglyphs along the Colorado River, because the petroglyphs are the creator's travel on the astros, and the pictographs are the creator's travel in the infraworld. That's why you find pictographs on the caves.
Mm-hmm. Telling the story.
And the petroglyphs on the rocks are along the washes where there's water. So it tells the story. You got to know stuff about the story of the tribes that are there, because they can describe, or unless there's no more than anybody, the majority were killed. Our relations were all killed. So it's hard. You have to see it. I would have to be there and see which way it's pointing, why, And so we have a lot of those images here, and I can tell you why those images are pointing the way they are and all that, because I know the geographic of the place.
And it has something to do with the solar importance and the celestial importance.
See, that's why there's the two solstices and the two equinoxes.
Major signals to the Aboriginal population.
What?
Major signals to the Aboriginal population of that day.
That's what they were guided for. See, everything was, you were guided by. We were guided by the cosmos.
Mm-hmm. The cosmos.
There's calendars in the Aztec calendar. There's the lunar, the solar, and the long count of the Mayan. That's why August the 13th is the most sacred day.
Fascinating
so
stuff.
Calendar, they can describe, like what is this, like when you were born, what time and the hour of the day you were born. So they'll give you an interpretation of how your character is going to be.
And
that's why the people that studied that, they would interpret this to the ladies that had their babies. That's why they would name them in reference to the calendar date.
Now, how do you pronounce the figure that you depicted in your book? The Talhawk. Am I saying that right? TLALOC. The Talhawk's image of the glyph, which represents Mother Earth.
Oh,
Tlaloc.
Tlaloc is the Baus fisherman. Yes, it represents Mother Earth. Tlaloc.
And he was a she.
That's right, it's Mother Earth.
It was Mother Earth.
Tlaloc. And Huitzilopochtli represents the man, the sun.
Interesting.
No. This is it. This is it. See?
Mm-hmm.
You should schedule a big presentation there at the University of Las Vegas, and we can make a presentation there with our PowerPoint.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you up.
Just give me a little advance notice.
Yeah, of course.
I don't travel no more. My daughters are the ones that take me.
I understand. And I'd like to get down there to visit you and go see the actual Blythe Integlios with you.
You haven't seen him?
No, I haven't been down there yet. I need to get down there.
San Antonio, no wonder. You're asking these questions. Oh, right. Oh, I just brought we just had the University of California, San Bernardino down here they brought their professors and students. Oh, they were just dazzled. So I said, that's why we need more people like you to come so you can show, so we can help us protect these sites. Otherwise, these damn companies are going to destroy a lot of it. And so we need help.
And we're getting the word out. That's what we're doing. We're putting the word out.
You betcha.
Well, again, I thank you for your and top hats off to you, sir, for the work that you've done. It's fascinating material.
Thanks very much. Appreciate this. Okay.
All right. You have a great one.
Likewise.
Thank you. My guest, Alfredo Acosta Figueroa, author of Ancient Footprints of the Colorado River, folks. Find that book on Amazon and support his fantastic work. A unique and factual, as he says, account of early occupation and settlement of the lower Colorado Basin. And that's, of course, where the Blythe Integlio is, which is that gigantic man humanoid figure, horned, that matches very similar to what we find at Baraboo Man Mound in Wisconsin. Is there a connection? We believe so. This was much bigger of a civilization than we give it credit for. And I think these humanoid figures that remain today, that we're fortunate to have and need to be preserved, are the clues to uncovering much detail of our Aboriginal past and what that Aboriginal past means perhaps to our future. But there's without question a connection between the Blythe Canyon Integlios and the Man Mound of Wisconsin. On tonight's show notes, the link listed below, we close with the photo connection of the smiling faces. And what you're looking at, if you're at that link on those photos, is the Blythe Canyon face next to a Wisconsin smiley face stone. You tell me if you can see a connection between the imagery there in the Colorado desert versus the Wisconsin prairie land. That calendar stone and that smiley face, like Alfredo spoke about, are calendar events, celestial in nature, solar in nature, and their positioning and their likeness with such a vast distance in between piques curiosity for upcoming and future episodes. So a big shout out and a thank you to Alfredo for being here tonight and sharing some of his knowledge at 86 years old, folks. He's been doing this for 53 years, more than 53 years. And again, I'm going to post the links in the show notes to the Blythe Canyon Integlios, and you can see their mammoth structures. And if you ever get a chance to go down and visit these geoglyphs, you're going to find, them to be spread out. And there's over 4 or 5 of them in that area. Now, keep in mind, I have not been down there. I am eagerly awaiting my visit to the Blythe Integlios. And again, these are a group of gigantic figures that are incised into the ground. They're built into the ground in Blythe, California, in the Colorado desert. Now, the Integlios are ginormous, okay? They're over, massive amounts of intaglios, not just 4. There's 4 main gigantic intaglios in the Colorado Desert there by Blythe. But there's well known to be over 200 intaglios in the Colorado Desert. And these particular lengths, which are over 171 feet in length, are the largest human figure in the Blythe intaglio group, 171 feet. Again, the intaglios, like the Man Mound, are best viewed from the air. And that raises a ton of questions. Was there perhaps primitive flight? Was there perhaps some sort of a prehistoric animal, a pterodactyl, if you will, that perhaps was harnessed by the civilization and utilized for transportation and flight? Speculation here, folks. We have no knowledge that these individuals that built these intaglios and these mounds had any way of viewing them from the air. So if you have any information that suggests otherwise, we encourage you to send us a shout out. You can record up to a 30-second message at the bottom of our website, rippandrabbithole.com. A little red microphone there. You can press that, and you can record the answer to the question. We'd like to hear from you. Was it possible that these intaglios and these mounds were ever viewed by the people that built them from the air? And if so, how? And of course, the speculation and the postulation suggests a number of theories. It's possible that these were offerings to the gods that could view them from the heavens above. And some will speculate and theorize that it's possible that travelers from distant universes or outside our solar system, extraterrestrials, could view these particular images from the air. And this was a way of them communicating and mapping around their travels of prehistoric Earth. It's up in the air, folks. You tell us what you think. Visit rippandrabbithole.com. Let us know if you think the people that built these things were able to see them from the air. Or as always, you can send us an email at rippandrabbithole@gmail.com. And can you believe it? We did it. We spent the night together. Another Thursday night with the Art Bell Archive live show. I'm your host, AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit. Thanks so much for being here tonight as we discuss the intaglios and mounds of the horned giants. It was a lot of fun. And again, a special thanks to our guest, Alfredo Acosta Figueroa. If you haven't joined our mailing list at rippandrabbithole.com or YouTube, hit that subscribe now and join us for these shows live. You can join us tomorrow night as well as we discuss Planet 9, the mysterious lost planet of our solar system. That's tomorrow, December 6th. Starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then Saturday night, special guest Moneybag 73 is here. We're getting into the Mandela Effect rock and roll, folks. Mandela music will be our topic on Saturday night. Saturday, December 7th, again, all shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. And if you're still up for the cold and bitter Sunday night, we're going to deal with anti-gravity. Extraterrestrial technology, perhaps things not too distant in the future appearing in the world of anti-gravity. Hey folks, it's been fun hanging out with you wherever you are. I bid you a good day, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. I'm AJ, and from now until then, take care of yourself and each other.
Tries to hide his very long ears under a big cat 'cause he wants to be incognito. You try to talk to him, you see him disappear. Oh, they call him Mr. Rabbit. Oh, simply Mr. Rabbit. You've never seen such a creature like this. A human body and a rabbit face. Oh, they call him Mr. Rabbit. Oh, Mr. Rabbit.
Once there was an old man living in an old house down by the lake. Rumor says the man was hunting for rabbits just for fun. Since the day the rabbit disappeared for a while, then came back and cast a spell over the old man. So he looks like a rabbit too now.
They call him Mr. Rabbit. Oh, simply Mr. Rabbit. You've never seen such a creature like this. A human body and a rabbit face. Oh, they call him Mr. Rabbit. Oh, Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit. They call him Mr. Rabbit.
You are listening to Rippin' Common Sense Radio.
That's right, where we take you well into the midnight hour with our special Art Bell Archives show happening tonight and every night this weekend, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Tune in as we open up the Art Bell Archives and dive into the lost classics of a vocal treasure. We take a look at those stories and we bring them up to date and we share them with you. We ask for your input and your shout-outs, your call-ins, as we go through the most amazing stories ever told. Tune in tonight and every night as we reinvestigate the Art Bell Archives live.
The Art Bell Archive Show. 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. RippinCommonSense.com.